All right. So, in today's class, we've already talked about what bring about cost estimation, that it is used for the prediction of the future cost using the historical data, right? And we've talked about so many. We talk about cost estimation techniques. We talk about the high and low method, the accounting analysis, the engineering method, as well as least square method, as well as what scatter graph, right? We'll look at all those things. We just explained, and I said that there are two methods we'll be looking at, right, in performance management. As far as performance management is concerned, there are two methods we'll be looking at, which is the high and low method as well as the linear regression. I mentioned that the using the accounting analysis is subjective because it is an individual that determine the cost, that determine how you will categorize a cost, either as a fixed cost or as a variable cost, right? Remember that cost estimation is used for the separation, right? When you want to get the future cost, you use cost estimation to determine the future cost of a particular what, of a particular product, right? When you want to get the future cost of a particular product, right, you can, so that will take us to a mixed cost, because when you want to determine the future cost will consist of both the mixed cost, both the mixed cost will consist of the mixed cost. Don't forget that mixed cost is a cost that contains what? Both the variable cost as well as what? As well as fixed cost, right? So how do we now separate how do we now separate the fixed cost from our variable cost? This will now take us to cost estimation techniques, which it is used to what? To separate the fixed cost from our what? From our variable cost. Now, when you are estimating for the future cost, class, when you are estimating for the future cost, you should also consider inflation, because inflation will definitely affect your cost. So this one will now take us to where? High and low with what? With inflation. When you are trying to separate your fixed cost from your variable cost, right, you should also consider what? Inflation. So this one will now take us to what? Which means that when you are considering a cost, a particular fixed cost in the future, you should as well as what? Consider the what? The inflation to that what? Fixed cost, right? And that is what we are going to do tonight, right? Class, are we still together? Class, are we still together?
Together we are.
Yes, sir.
Okay, together we are. Well
Yes.
done. Interesting. So now, having established that, right? So we quickly go to the inflation. Now, our data, don't forget that your data, your cost will be adjusted for what? Will be adjusted for what? Inflation. Now, what is inflation? Inflation like is like persistence rise in the price of goods and services, right? Which will definitely affect your cost. And you could say inflation actually affects your stepped fixed cost. Don't forget that in our last class, we explained stepped fixed cost. Stepped fixed cost means that is the abnormal changes in the fixed cost, or is step fixed cost could also be as a particular cost that increase as a result of increase in the levels of activities. Now, I will give a practical illustration, right? You are using a space to produce pure water, and you are paying a rent of 20 naira, right? Now, suddenly, and you are producing 100 bags a day, suddenly your production increased to 200 bags. Definitely that particular space will not be enough. Is that not so? Now, definitely you will need another cost of fixed cost. Is that not so? So that is abnormal. That is, your fixed cost will change as a result, because your production has exceeds the normal capacity. Is that not so? That is what we call what? Stepped fixed cost. We've explained that in the previous class. Now, I'm just trying to explain that what could cause an increase in the what? In the fixed cost could be inflation, right? You could say, oh, step fixed cost could actually affect your what? Could be as a result of what? Inflation. Let me give you a practical illustration again. Now, in a particular space, you are paying 15 naira per year. For instance, now 15 naira per year, landlord will just come. Oh, you've been paying 15 naira per year. So there is inflation. You quickly say, no, it is not 15 naira per year again. It is 200 naira per year without knowing if you are making profit or not. You can see that with suddenly, because your landlord has already told you that no, this will increase as a result of what? As a result of inflation, right? As a result of what? Inflation, because there is inflation, the prices has increased. So therefore, the normal rent you are paying for 50 naira, it is not 50 naira again. We'll increase it to 200 naira, right? So that is abnormal increase, right? This could also arise as a result of what? Inflation, right? It is not all about production as well. Before your step fixed cost will increase, as well as inflation will also affect your step fixed cost, right? Now, distinguished professional colleague, we already established that you need to adjust for inflation, which means that if it is 50 naira as of today, in the next 3 years, it could be 500 naira. That means that you are adding an inflation. You are including inflation rates to the what? And you are including the inflation rate to the what? To the future cost. Class, are we still together, please? And that is all about high and low with inflation. High and low with inflation is talking about that, oh, you want to predict the future fixed cost and the variable cost. In summary, you want to predict the future fixed cost as well as the variable cost. Is that also? Now, when you are predicting the future cost using high and low method, you need to consider inflation, right? And that will take us to high and low with what? With inflation, right? And that is how it is. Class, are we still together, please? Are we still together, please? So when we get to capital budget, we will still see more of inflation. When you have to consider inflation for your cost, you have to consider inflation for your sales, you have to consider inflation for so many other things. When we get to what? When we get to capital budget, right? Class, are we still together? Are we getting it? Are we still together?
Yes, please.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, good,
Yes,
good,
sir.
good. I just needed to confirm that, right? I just needed to confirm that. Now, now let's quickly look at an illustration to that. Let's quickly look at an illustration to high and low with inflation. I have a question here, please. If you have your material with you, kindly open to, if you have your material with you, if you are here to get your material, the material cost is just 2,000 naira. Send the account details is on the platform. Send it to send this as well as so that I can send your material to you in your DM, right? So now let's quickly look at this question. Class, can we see? Please confirm if you can see my screen. Please confirm if you can see my
We
screen.
can see your screen.
Yes, we can see it.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. Good. Now we have high and low with inflation, right? High and low with what? Inflation question two. You can see that we have high and low inflation question three. Question three. I did a pre-recorded video on high and low with inflation, both question two as well as what? As well as question three. So I think that one should drop. Before Monday. It will drop before Monday so that you can quickly watch the video on high and low. But just pay attention to this class because it's very important for you to understand the costing system. Now, activity level. Don't forget that when they say activity level, means your unit produce, it means your what? Your output, right? It means your output, right? Now, when they say total cost, you are talking about the total cost incurred, right? You have 140 and we have 170, right? Now, in this question now, Umi,
Sir, sir, I can't see your screen.
it could be your network, but it could be your network.
Okay, I can
I,
see
I,
it
I
now.
Okay. It could be your network. It could be your network. Suggested solution. I'm coming. I'll still read the question. Okay, I'm coming. Just a minute. Okay. Now, I'll save this out. Save it already. Okay, now. What time is it? Okay. Now, This is a question now, right? We were told that the variable cost per unit is constant in this range of activity. And there is a step up of 5,000 naira in the total cost. You can see step up. Step up means there will be an increase in your fixed cost, in the total fixed cost. When activity, that is when you produce, right? If your levels of activities exist, if you produce something that is more than 18,000 units, now you can see that your fixed cost, what will make your fixed cost to increase? It could be as a result of inflation. It could be as a result of increase in the production. Now, they are telling you that calculate the total costs at 17,500 and 20,000 units respectively. Class, you can see the way we analyze this question. They said variable cost per unit is constant, of which we have already established that in our first class that it is constant in this range of activity, and there is a step up of 5,000, which means that 5,000 in the total fixed cost, which means that the total fixed cost will be stepped up by 5,000, will be increased by when right, the activity exists. If you produce more than 18,000, your fixed cost will increase by 15,000, by 5,000. That is just the analysis of this question. Now, calculate the total cost at 17,500 units and 20,000 units. Now, this is very simple, right? Now, don't forget that what was given to us is the total cost of 140, 170, and you can see that when the cost is 140, the levels of activities is 17,000, and they are telling us that when you produce, if your production exists, excuse me, if your production exists 18, that is from 17 to 18, from 18 above, you need to add 5,000 naira to your costs, to your total fixed cost. Class, now, do we still remember our cost function? Someone should just give us our cost function. What is our cost function? Can you unmute your mic? Just give me the cost function. What is the cost function? Class, what is the cost function? Class.
So, is it like y equals a plus bx?
Y equals to A
Okay,
plus B.
okay, thank you. Thank you. Yeah,
So
Bumi, is
y
that
as the
so?
total cost equals to
Okay,
A fixed cost plus
okay, that's
B
fine.
variable cost
That's fine.
and
That's fine.
activity
Thank
X.
you. Thank you. Bumi, are you still in this class with us? Who again?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, please, if you know you don't understand, let us know so that we can come back, we can quickly recap on that, right? Now, we already know this. We have established this in our first class that you need to establish your cost function as equals to y, y equals to
Equals to
a plus bx,
plus B.
right? Right? We
Yeah.
have already established
Yes.
this that a is our y is the total cost, a is the fixed cost, B is the variable cost per unit, while X is the what is your level of activity. If this is established, right? Now, you can't get your total, when you want to get your total fixed cost, don't forget from our steps to calculate variable cost per unit. What the first thing you need to calculate is variable cost per unit. Now, what is the first step? We identify the highest cost, highest levels of activities, lowest cost, lowest levels of activities. Is that not so? Now, you can't get your what you will use to get your total fixed cost. Class, listen. What you will use to get your total fixed cost, we start from your variable cost per unit. Do you agree with me? Because your P will be made the subject. We will use B the subject of the formula when we move. Is that not so? So for you to add this 5,000 naira, that they say the total fixed cost will increase when the production exceeds 18. For you to add this 5,000 naira, you need to add it from starting from the variable cost part of it so that it will reflect in your fixed cost. I repeat, you need to add this 5,000 naira from your cost, from the beginning of your variable cost, from the beginning of calculating your variable cost per unit, so that at the end it will reflect in your fixed cost. It will, because that step of cost, it will affect your variable cost as well, right? So from your variable cost you get your fixed cost. Is that also? Now some students, now experience has shown that some students, they won't take it into consideration. They won't even take the 5,000 naira into consideration when they want to calculate their variable cost per unit. They will just calculate their variable cost per unit. They calculate their fixed cost. They now add their fixed cost together. If they arrive at 10 naira, for instance, they will just add the 5,000 naira to it, and they say, oh, their fixed cost has increased. That is very wrong, because your variable cost per unit is supposed to be affected as well. So down your fixed cost. Excuse me. So how do we do that? Now we need to get what? The variable cost per unit. Is that also, which is B? For us to establish that, we need to get the highest cost or highest output, highest output, right? Highest output, right? So what is the highest output, class? What is the highest output here?
22,000.
Class, what is the highest?
1,000.
22,000.
22,000. 22,000, right? So what is the highest cost? Highest cost,
170,000.
please.
170,000.
170,000. If this is established, 170,000. So you go and check. Now, you go, I'm just bringing them out. Then the lowest cost,
17,000.
lowest output.
140,000.
Let's just put lowest output.
Lowest cost.
So please just mute your mic, right? So we just need one person to just give us so that we will not be going back and forth, right? Balogun, Mr. Balogun, you can just you mute your mic, just unmute your mic and give us figure while others will follow,
Yes, for
right?
lowest cost, we have 140,000.
Lowest cost is one
140,000.
lowest. Okay, yes, lowest output is 17,000 units, right?
Yes.
17,000 units.
Yes.
Why the lowest cost is 140?
140. Yes.
140. If this is established,
Yes.
now don't forget that we were told that, because for you to calculate your variable cost per unit, you must, your 5,000 naira must reflect in your variable cost. Some students will just calculate their variable cost per unit. When they calculate their variable cost per unit, they will calculate their fixed cost, they will now add the 5,000 naira. It is very wrong. That is how it is what? Very wrong, because your variable cost does not include the inflation figure, right? So therefore, we were told that if the production exists 18,000, of which in this part, from 17,000, from 17,000 to what? 18, from 17,000 to where? From 17,000 to what? 22,000 units, right? So definitely that the production has already exist from 17,000 to 22. It has already exist the 18. Is that not so?
Yes.
It has already what? It has already exist what? 18. Now, what do we do if this production has already exist what? 18,000 units? What we need to do is that either we are using the lowest cost or we are using the highest cost. Depends on the perspective we are looking at it. Now, if you are looking at it in the lowest cost, don't forget that this 140,000 does not include inflation yet, right? Because the production level is still within. Is that not so?
Yes.
Is still within. Now, excuse me. Now, from there, from 140 to 170. Now you can see that in between 140 to 170, there is a kind of a cost increase. Is that not so? Is that not so? Now, we need to establish that. Now, what you need to do now is that, the 5,000 naira, right? You from 140 to 170, we want to know what is the stepped up cost? What is the inflation cost? What will be the cost? Now, if we now produce above 17,000 naira class, right? You need to add 5,000 naira to 140,000 naira. Do you know why you need to add 5,000 naira to the 140,000? Because the 140,000 does not include inflation yet, does not include stepped up cost. Now you are preparing ahead that if it is now above it, which we definitely have something that is above 22,000. Now, what will be the cost then? Class, let me repeat this. The 140,000 does not include stepped up costs because it is normal 17,000. Now, they now say that if it has now exceeded, now we want it to exceed it. So, what is your cost now? If you want to do it like that, the total fees cost, don't forget that your total cost here. It make your total cost include your variable cost, total variable cost, as well as total fees cost, right? So from this 17,000 unit and 140,000 naira does not include what? The inflation cost. So you need to consider it because the production level is above, has already exceeded 18,000 from 17,000. So you need to consider the future cost of that. So that is why you need to add what? You need to add 5,000 naira to this. 5,000. Class, are we still together?
Yes.
Are we still together? So this will give us what? This will give us 145,000. So which means that your lowest cost is now 145,000 because you take consideration of the step fees cost of what? 5,000 if the production level exceeds what? 18,000. Class, before I continue to calculate the variable cost per unit, which is B, please unmute your mic and ask your question because you need to ask question. Yeah, it is very important, right? It is very important to do that. Ask your question before we continue. Please unmute your mic. Ask your question. Right? Okay, Adekoya.
Okay, so the question says when activity level exceeds 18,000, there will be a step
Thank
up
you.
of 5,000. But like,
Thank you.
as why are we adding the 5,000 when it's still like 17,000? That's not exceeded
Brilliant question.
18,000.
Brilliant.
Go
You are
on.
very intelligent. You are very, very intelligent. Good question. Now, the 170,000 naira is already include the step fees cost. You can see that it increased from 140 to 170,000, which means that it is as a result of the levels of activity. So we are not supposed to add anything to the 170,000 because the step fees cost has already been inclusive because the levels of activities increased from 17 to 22. So as it increased from 17 to 22, the cost has already reflected in what? In 170,000 naira. So if you want to do it in another way, right, you can deduct you can say, oh, you don't want to add it to 140,000. You can decide to subtract it from 170,000 and you move on. Adekoya, do you understand?
Yes, sir.
Do you understand the logic?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Okay, please, I need more other question. Please, you need to ask question. You can see PM is very simple. You you need to understand why it's like this, right? That is a very brilliant question, right? I give it to you, kudos. And that is how it is. The 170,000 has already include the future cost, the step fees cost. So we don't need to add anything again. Rather, we do what? We subtract because it has already been inclusive. You can do it that way. It will still work out. You will still get the same variable cost per unit. Or you say, oh, from 17 from 17,000 from 140,000 naira does not include the step fees cost. So when it moves to 18, you the 5,000 naira exists 18, you add the 5,000 so that you know that, oh, if this 17,000 naira exists that particular 18,000 unit, you already add the step fees cost in the word for the future cost. Class, are we still together, please? Are we good?
Yes, sir.
I need to establish that before we continue, please. Right? And if this is established, then we proceed. So now equals to now we can now say what is the difference from our steps. You look for the difference. What is the difference between 22,000 minus 17,000? What do we have?
5,000.
5,000. Okay, this is 5,000 units. 5,000 units. 5,000 units, right? 5,000 units. If this is established, what is the difference between 170 and 145?
30,000.
25,000.
Okay,
Okay,
35,000.
95,000. If this is
35.
25,000.
35, okay, if this is
25.
established,
25.
okay, 25. Just hold on. Sorry, a minute. Okay. 25. Sorry about that. So your variable cost per unit will be 25,000 divided by 5,000 units. So what do we have? Figure, please. What do we have? Class, give me figure. What do we have?
Your screen
5,000.
is not showing again.
That is 5.
Okay,
5 naira.
25,000 divided by 5,000 units.
5.
5,000.
That's 5 naira.
What do we
5.
have?
5.
Okay, 5 naira.
5 naira.
Okay. This is 5 naira per unit, right? This is 5 naira per unit, right? That is the variable cost. Is that not so? Now, if variable cost per unit, see, it is 5 naira per unit, not 5 naira, because you divide it by units, right? That is why it is called what? 5 naira what? 5 naira per unit, right? That is why it is called what? 5 naira per unit, right? Now, we cannot proceed that the next thing for you to calculate is your fixed cost. So if you want to calculate your fixed cost, we already have our y equals to a plus bx, right? Now, whichever one we want to use, either we use highest cost or we use lower. If you use highest cost, you use highest output. If you use lowest cost, you use lowest output. So therefore, we say using what? Using highest cost and output. So now, if we want to establish this now, if we want to establish, somebody is coming in 9:08 and he's saying I should let him in. I don't understand. Class is 8:30 now. Okay, Bumi.
So isn't that supposed to be that's the 170 minus the 140? It's not supposed to be 30,000 naira. How do we get it?
No, now you've already adjusted for it now. Bumi, you've already adjusted for it. You've already add 5,000 naira to it. Can you see it?
Yes,
Can you see
sir.
my screen?
Yes, sir.
You can see that we've already added 5,000 naira to it,
Okay.
right? And that is what gave us 145. That is why we say 170 minus 145. Don't forget that we adjusted for the inflation cost. If this 17,000, if the production exceeds 18,000, of which in between 170, in between 140 to 170, the production has already exceeded 18,000. Is that not so? Now, this 170,000 naira has already included inflation. So there is no need for us to add any figure unless we need to subtract it. Right? Now, this 140,000 naira does not include the future increase as a result of the 18,000 naira capacity. So that is why we say, oh, we need to start from there. Either you say you add 5,000 naira to 140,000, or you subtract 170,000 from 5,000. Anyhow, you will still get the same variable cost. Bumi, do you get?
Yes, sir. Thanks, sir.
Do you understand? No, no, no. Do you understand? Do you understand?
Yes, sir. I
Don't
do,
worry.
sir.
Okay, don't worry. When I finish this question now, we'll recap. We'll do a recap on that. Okay? We'll do a
Okay.
recap on that. Do you get? Okay, don't worry. Yeah. Thank you. So now, the next thing is that using highest cost, right? Right? Using highest cost and output. So now, what is the highest cost now? You know, this is why. This is why. Is that not so? So, why is your cost? Is that not so? So, what is the highest cost? Highest cost is 170,000 equals to A. A is not given, which we need to establish, plus B. We already gotten our B as 5 naira per unit, right? As 5 naira per unit. Always write it because it is very important. Times using highest cost and highest output. So now, what is your highest output here? 22. Is that not so, class? Are we still together, class? Class, are we still
Yes,
together?
sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Now, if that is established, we can have 170,000, right, equals to A. Please punch your calculator. 5 times 22, what do we have?
110,000.
110,
10.
right? 110,000. Now, don't forget that in my last class, what did I call this? What did I call this 110,000? Class, who can still remember? What did I call this 110,000? I called it one name.
Total variable cost.
Total what? Total variable cost, right? Thank you. This is called total variable cost. Class, do you know why it is called total variable cost? Because if your cost per unit will cost 5 naira, if your variable cost, don't forget that variable costs are costs, right? Variable cost per unit is always constant, right? Now, total variable costs are costs that varies with the levels of activities. Now, you already say that your variable cost per unit, when you produce, your variable cost per unit is 5 naira per unit, and you produce 22,000 units, class. What is your total variable cost? It will be 110 when you multiply it. Is that not so? Is that not so? Now, if you produce 50,000 units, right? If you produce 50,000 units, for instance, your variable cost per unit will still remain 5 naira. You can say that 50,000 times 5, your total variable cost has changed as a result of the changes in the levels of activities or the changes in the unit produced. Class, are we together? So now, if this is established, so we can collect the item just like the way we normally do in secondary school. Then A equals to 170 minus 170 minus what? Minus 110. So what do you have, class? What do you have? 170 minus 110. What do you have, class?
60,000.
60,000. Thank you. 60,000. You can see now, this your 60,000 naira has include the 5,000 naira inflation of stepped up cost of the 5,000. Some students will not, the way we do it here, some students will not do it like this. So they will calculate their variable cost per unit without including the 5,000 naira. Now they will come and say, oh, they will get their fixed cost. So once they get their fixed cost, they will now add the 5,000 naira. That is totally wrong, because your fixed cost, your stepped up cost, supposed to include, it's supposed to be added to your variable cost per unit, because it's also a cost, right? It's also a cost that will affect your variable cost per unit. So that is why we needed to add it from the inception and to what we use to get it. So now, if this is established as well, if this is established, don't forget, our A is 60 naira, our B is what? 5 naira per what? 5 naira per unit, right? Now, if this is established, the question says, calculate the total cost. What will be the total cost? At 17,500 units, I will do the one of 17,500 units, then you will give me the answer for the 20,000 units, and that is how we roll, right? Now, don't forget that addition of all this together will give us the total cost, which is the Y, right? Now, if production at what unit? At 17,500 units, what is the total cost, right? At 17,500 units, right? So what will be the total cost, right? What will be the total cost? Don't forget that our function, we already have our function as y equals to a plus what? bs. Y equals to, we already established our a. Our a is what? The a is what? 60,000 plus B is 5 naira per unit. We've already established that as well. 5 naira. Always write it like this, please. 5 naira per unit. Always do it like this. Times, right? And they say the levels of activity will be 17,500 units. You can see 17,500 units times 17,500 units. You can see that when the production level now, I want you to, okay, what is your, give me figure here. I want to get the figure of the total variable cost first, so that
87.5.
I will use it to explain something. So what is the total variable cost?
87,500.
Okay, thank you. 87,500, right? Now you can see that when production decreased to 17,500, the total variable cost has reduced. Excuse me. The total variable cost has increased to 87,500. Don't forget that when your total variable, when your units produce, your output is 22,000 units. You can see that, you can see the varies, you can see the variation. Is that also? So basically, your total variable cost will vary based on what you produce, right? So what do we have? What is the total cost now? What is the total cost, class? What is the total cost?
147,500.
147,500. And this is all. Then you now calculate this for me. When production is at, when the unit is 20,000 units, you can do that. When the unit is 20,000 units, what is your total cost, class? So what will be your total cost? You can do that. So you can, I will send, yeah, I will send the solution, just the solution to the platform. Please, if you are yet to get your material, please get your material. The material will cover both, what is it called? All questions, right? We'll cover some areas, some weaknesses whereby students have attempted so many other questions and the performance was actually below average. Okay, Adeola.
160,000.
Okay, that's fine. You can do that. You can put it in your notes. So that's fine. So do we have any? Okay, now I have 40 minutes here. The call will end by 14 minutes. Before the call end by 14 minutes, let me quickly take question from one of you. Let me end the recording then.